feels like the draft. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. Draft. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. It feels like the draft.
Oh, guys, I have grown so attached to that song. Only 2 more left, but I'm telling you, I'm petitioning with G to make that the permanent Miami Heat beat intro. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is another episode of DraftBeat, and today we are talking bigs. But before we start, I got to introduce my co-host and the co-founder of DraftBeat, Mr. Franky G. Franky G, how are you? Hello.
I'm great. DraftBeat, StreamBeat, Supremacy. Let's go Panthers.
Yes, you have a stake in all my great ideas. And below, the man, the myth, the legend, the one that has stayed in the dungeon 24/7 to watch all this game film and bring you this knowledge, Mr. Coach Lu, Saucy Takes. Hello, Coach.
What is up, man? Today we're getting to a polarizing episode. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, today's an episode that I honestly wasn't looking forward to. Franky had the phenomenal idea of moving the show up so we wouldn't coincide with the Panthers, because if it did coincide with the Panthers, this is one I could have skipped. There's not really that many guys I want to talk about here, but we have a show to do. So let's start with, as Lou mentioned, one of the more polarizing topics being the bigs. I think this is the most polarizing player in the draft, Mr. Kel'El Ware, the sophomore from Indiana.
Apologies.
Yeah. No, it's okay. It's okay. That's about the most excitement that you're going to hear for this prospect in the entire segment. Lou, I'm going to start with you because there's not much I have to say about him other than the fact that no motor, no culture, not for Miami Heat. I know a lot of people like him because of his athleticism and traits. How do you feel about him, and where is he on your Saucy Takes big board?
Not very high is the answer. How do I feel about him? I'm not very high. Where is he on my board? Probably like a late first round pick. Where is he on my Miami Heat board? Off the board. You do not take this guy if you're a Miami Heat fan. He is the complete antithesis of why you got Bam Adebayo. Like, I hate comparing somebody to Hassan, but every time I watch him, I just can't
I was thinking
help.
the same thing.
I just can't help but be like, horrible screen. What is that on that box out? Like, he is a player who cares about his stats and his stats only. That's the way it looks like when I watch it on film. You can say he interviewed well. I can say a lot of shit and not mean it. It's the way that life is, man. Like, he is athletically tested as one of the best players. Like, yes, the tools are there. But just like, if you turn on the highlight, he looks like a top 5 player in the class. If you watch the film, you're like, why is this guy even in consideration? There's things to like, but he posts up like 32% of the time. The jumper is not really all the way there. He's a decent finisher, but he's more of a play finisher. He doesn't create his own shot in any of these. It's just like, he's not the most polished guy, or the guy who I think mentally fits the system and the culture, or like what you're trying to stand for as a franchise.
I totally agree. I always think about Pat Riley saying that we kind of lost a grip on the culture and we got to get that back. He said that a few times. With that being on his mind, I can't see him going for Kel'El Ware, who, yes, I'm not saying he's Hassan Whiteside, but there are moments where he loses focus the way Hassan did, and he would do that in the biggest moments of his own team's games throughout the season. Franky, why is it that he has been kind of at one point rising up the draft board? Now he's kind of at a standstill, but what is it that you think that the scouts are looking at that are saying, you know what, I'm willing to bet on him and take a chance?
I mean, the size and the skill set is tantalizing. He shot 2% on runners and hooks. 55% of his 3-point attempts were top of the key. 9.9% assist percentage. 73 field goal percentage at the rim. 1.06 on post-ups, 85th percentile, 77th percentile on pick and rolls and pick and pops, 1.22. Like, he's got talent. Like, there's a lot of talent. 6.5% block rate. Like, he's good. 17 of 39 catch and shoot threes for 43% from the field. And like, you look at the size, like, shout out to G for these
phenomenal
amazing graphics.
Thank you.
And he's 7 feet. He's a legit 7 feet. This is without shoes. His measurement right here, 9 feet, 4.5-inch reach, like a standing reach, 4.5 wingspan. Like that's a legit 5 right there.
Yeah.
The problem is for the Miami Heat, whenever you're seriously considering a prospect, you have to consider what they have already. And Bam Adebayo, for his versatility on defense, and he can guard 1 through 5 legitimately, like be on a guy, not just on a switch. You saw it in the playoffs against Jaylen Brown, against Jason Tatum. He was guarding them for full possession from the beginning to end. This guy, Bam, is not anything but a 5 on offense. So you need a guy to complement him on that end. And there's definitely things to like about Kel'El Ware, but he's a 5 on both ends. And I don't think he's that perfect fit. He in these graphics you see 1.3 attempts per game on threes. To put that in perspective, his 3-point rate was lower than Jimmy's and Thomas Bryant's. He doesn't shoot a lot of threes.
Mhm.
That's not really his game. That's not to say he's going to be a bad player or anything like that, but
it's not going to be his role.
It'll be a big adjustment for him, and I don't think it's clean fit. I think there's better players at 15 for Miami and that are cleaner fits.
Just really quickly before we get off this topic, because I don't want to spend any more time talking about him, but where do you guys think he's going to end up in the draft? Because he is the most polarizing prospect. Like the scouts that like him love him, and then the scouts that don't like him are going to stay far, far and away. So what team do you think is really going to be the one to take that chance on him, and how high?
To be honest, like the late lotto guys make a lot teams that like 19 through 20 through 30, excuse me. Those teams make more sense. A team like Memphis is probably the highest I could see them going in the lottery. But even then, like Memphis probably wants more of a ready guy who's a little bit more polished and a little bit more focused on defense. But yeah, this guy's range is all over the place because there are.
But you think he falls?
Questions.
You think he falls out of the lottery?
I definitely think so. I would. Everybody's mock drafts are crazy right now, and all
it's crazy. There's
never
no
seen a draft
mock
like
draft
this.
that I've seen. There's no mock draft that I've seen that has the exact same like top 3 picks, top 4 picks. You know, it's everybody is one way or the other on it. Lou, and we will, by the way. Special announcement, we will be having a mock draft spectacular next week, so stay tuned for more information on that. So Lou, not to necessarily give away the pick, but do you think he's going to fall out of the lottery as well?
Yes, I would be absolutely bamboozled if a team took him in the first 14.
Okay.
For the same reasons we said, but
yeah,
I want to give him some credit because I do think he does one thing that I was like, okay, like this is like. It's something we didn't see with other players with effort issues. I think he is a very, I don't think his passing is great, but I think it's very good. So he does some things passing wise where I'm like, especially out of the doubles in the post, where there's some things there, but not to completely shit on the guy, but if you think I'm high on him, just listen to the first 6 minutes.
I mean, I hope, I shouldn't say I hope he falls out, but I think he will fall out of the lottery. But I also think there's a really good chance that he ends up in the lottery because there's always going to be that one team that is just going to fall in love with the skill set. And that he is testing well. But the thing that you cannot test until it's game time is that focus in the end, that clutch time. Are you still going to be there mentally? And every single time I watched him, he failed that test for me. So I just don't see him as a Heat fit. And from there, we will move on to the next guy, someone that I think is a Heat fit. Probably the only guy that we talk about today that I actually do like. And let's talk about Tyler Smith from the G League Ignite. Yeah, one of the younger guys in this draft. Frankie, talk to me about Tyler Smith. What do you like about his game? Because I know you're actually the ones who told me to check him out.
Tyler, I think out of all the big men and like legitimate big men, he has the most tantalizing skill set. You can see on that inbound, he played with Norris Cole. He's already familiar with Heat culture, but Tyler Smith is a big who's more of a 4 on offense, can play the perimeter, can play in pick and roll, is good pick and pop. Out of all these prospects that the Heat have worked out, he's the only one who was legitimate a 3-point shooter, like on multiple attempts. It was him. At 4 attempts a game, shot 36%. His size is 6'9" without shoes, 8'9" standing reach, 7'1" wingspan. Like that's a big right there. But he moves well laterally. out of all these bigs we're talking about, first in lane agility, he's third in the shuttle run, fourth in 3/4 sprint, and third in standing vert and max vert. He's athletic. He's got great instincts for as a weak side shot blocker. You'll see him play the pick and roll pretty well. He can play the level. He needs a lot of sharpening up of his skill set and development. But he's the only one of these guys that I can realistically see playing with Bam right away for some minutes at times. Yeah, there's a role. Like he doesn't have to play the 5. He can play on the perimeter. He can space. An unguarded catch and shoots from 3 shot 46%. Wow. That's good. That's good.
It's really good.
And he needs to improve a little bit, struggle with some of the physicality in the G League. But, for a guy this young, 64% at the rim, 75th percentile, only 49% on layups, but had a lot of dunks. Could improve on that end. But this guy was a 30% free 3-point rate. That guy shoots threes. He can space. 13.4 assist percentage shows there's potential with the passing. Misses some stuff and could use some sharpness. Of course, all these guys are unpolished and they need some work in some respects. But out of everything this guy brings to the table right away, I think he's the most ready to go and with the highest upside, in my opinion.
Yes, he's young, he's raw, but for the bigs at least, he's the only one that I actually do see that could fill in, as we were saying, a role for the Miami Heat. He fits the system. I do think he has that dog in him. Lu, where is he on your big board? How do you feel about him being potentially the pick at 15?
He is, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's 15 on my big board. Yeah, so it's perfect value. I love him for Miami. I think for the same reasons you guys stated, I don't see him as a big. So it's kind of like he's a tweener. I think that's the first thing we should. He has shown good instincts as a weak side rim protector, but sometimes as a pure rim protector, he doesn't have elite 5 size at like 6'9", 224, 7'1" wingspan. Like he's somebody who you can tell has never played center and he was forced to in the G League Ignite. But at the same time, like we saw how he tested athletically. He moves very well. I think his defense on that end of the floor is more tailored to 4s. Not to say he's a lockdown defender, because I don't think his defense is quite ready at this moment. But it's not because of an athletic thing. I think it's just because of an experience thing. I wrote that down several times. Like he needs some experience on that end of the floor. But he shows on tape, he shows like he wants to win. He shows a willingness. He shows motor. He shows effort. And offensively, like Frankie said, he takes 4 threes per game. That may not sound like a lot to you. He played 22 minutes per game. Yeah. So if we scale that up, he is amongst one of the, he shoots. And it's not only that he shoots and you're like 36% isn't that great. This kid was shooting that at 18, 19 years of age from the NBA 3-point line, 2 feet further out than college. And he was burying them. Like his shot is not the most perfect shot, I guess, but it's good enough. It works good. I love personally that he provides versatility on the offensive side of the floor. Miami, this is where the league is going. It's a versatile fucking league. So we need to see, players like him who not only can he pick and pop, but he can pick and roll and legitimately catch lobs, which is something Miami does not have anybody aside from Bam Adebayo to do, like realistically. But adds that element to Miami's offense, which they severely lack. He does a lot of things. I personally think he has upside putting the ball on the floor. He didn't get to showcase that.
I was hoping you were going to mention that because I thought his ball handling was a lot better than I expected when I turned on his tape. Like I could see him kind of like how we felt about Bam at the beginning, where it's like, ooh, there's something there. If you keep working at it, now Bam can actually handle. I see that potential with Tyler.
I see. It's funny because watching him, like just the way he kind of moves and the way the jumper looks, like I saw like sometimes the way he likes to go to face-ups, I saw a lot of like Beasley Bosch-esque moments.
Yeah, I saw his shot. I'm sorry, he's a lefty too, so just another power forward lefty who could shoot and spread the floor. Like I remember his shot looks so much like Bosch to me.
Yeah,
I kept having the double check.
Yeah, it's a very nice looking jumper, but I think he's ambidextrous, so he can finish with both hands. His finishing touch isn't the best. Like that's probably his biggest weakness. Offensively, is if he has to lay it up, it's probably not going to go in. But most of the time, he finishes with dunks anyways. So it's not as bad, considering his athletic profile. I just genuinely, he's one of the guys who improved the most. It looked like from the first G League Ignite game that I started watching all the way to the last one. And the things I like to also, especially with these G League Ignite players, the coach, what other players are saying, and everybody was like, "Nah, he wants this." Like he was being asked to shoot more just because he was that passive, like, which is crazy considering how talented he is offensively. But once he started getting into a rhythm, you really saw his skills on display. And at only 19 years of age, he provides a solid foundation. He can play alongside, your franchise guy moving forward in Bam Adebayo today, as well as he can back him up maybe in the future if need be.
Frankie, I love guys that come out of the G League and are in the draft because they have a little bit more experience in what the pro life is going to be like, the daily routine of actually being with a real franchise.
For sure.
And yes, you're going up against, in some cases, much more older men, much more physical bodies. Now, they're not getting the same amount of reps that they would in college because they're going to be coming off the bench because there's going to be older guys that are more polished ahead of them. But how do you feel about guys that are coming out of the G League? And this is something that I feel like the Heat are starting to come around to. It's fairly new still, but we haven't seen them really mess with G League guys that often. We see them more sticking with, seniors in college.
Yeah, they, that we saw them with Ron Holland, work him out as well on the same team here as Tyler Smith. And they also had a guy that's eligible for the draft on the Sioux Falls Skyforce, Bryson Warren, if I'm remembering his name correctly, that he's eligible to be drafted. So they're experimenting it more with it. I definitely think it's a great idea. Like you got guys with upside here. Athleticism, age, and talent. Like there's a lot to like about Tyler Smith specifically. Like we talked about his size and his skills, but like this is the guy that realistically, I think there's a pathway for him to play minutes with Nico and Bam. And when Bam's not on the floor, you can play both of them together. You talk about Tyler struggling to guard fives, and Nico can guard fives. You can play five out on offense and have Nico guard fives and Tyler be the weak side rim protector. And that's something you didn't have the luxury of last year. He's 6'9" without shoes, so about 6'10" in game. That's a lot of things that he really lacked that he brings to the table with upside to get better. I think screen setting could be a little bit cleaner as well, but that's all coachable stuff. I just think that the upside for this kind of pick, like this is a swing. I don't think his floor is that low too, because of his shooting ability and his touch. His feel isn't that bad for his age, and for his age, I would say his feels is a positive as well. And when you consider,
and with the work ethic that we know that he has, all the more reason.
Exactly. And when you consider that he was playing on the Ignite were a bad team, and he took his lumps and kept competing, would play hard. His motor was not a question. That's why I'm a big fan.
Yeah, had the highest net rating too on the G League Ignite. They were best when he was on the floor, which
as I said at the top, he's really the only big that we're going to talk about today that I would actually be, very happy with, and I'd be fine with at 15. There are guys that I probably have ahead of him, but that's more just because I'm, kind of leaning towards guard, and we'll talk about that more next week. But yeah, Tyler Smith, very high on. And again, I see the pathway for Miami. Whereas this other guy, Lou, I want you to talk to me about Yves Missi, Koa Missi's, or maybe some other guy. There we go. Yves Missi, Koa Missi's long lost cousin, because I haven't watched much of him, but I know that you were someone that wanted me to, look into him more. What is it about Yves Missi that has you so high on him?
I do like the prospect. I just really, really, really question his fit with Miami in particular, because he is a traditional five. He does not space the floor well. So he's somebody who, is not going to play alongside Bam Adebayo unless Bam Adebayo is coming out shooting 35, 36% on high volume and actually spacing the floor. And I just don't think he's going to do that next year, personally. I hope he does. I fucking pray he does. But realistically, it's a jump that is unheralded before, like, honestly, in terms of volume. So, but Missi is, he's like top 20 for me in this draft too. Like I like the prospect defensively. He is very versatile. He's like a legit 7 feet in shoes, moves very well, started playing basketball 3 years ago. So there's things to like athletically, he is an absolute menace. And one of the things that I like the most for somebody who's only played basketball for 3 years is how good he operates defensively in pick and roll coverage. I think he's a legitimately versatile piece on that end of the floor. He can hedge and recover. He can play at the level. He can play and drop. He has good enough timing around the rim. He fouls a little bit, but so does every center when they're 19 and just started playing basketball 3 years ago. He played on a legit program in Baylor. We saw the traits. We see like the physicality. The concerns with him are obviously the shooting the ball aspect. His playmaking is nowhere near as like he cannot operate DHOs or at the top right now. Like that's a little far fetched. He, as we see on this clip, like he provides some upside with his handle. I think some of that was just lent to situation. I don't think that's something realistically that you should be expecting year one or maybe even year two. It might take him a couple years, but high energy, high motor, like he fits the culture. It's just, in my particular opinion, it's too rich for 15. I don't think you can take at 15 a guy who's only playing when Bam Adebayo is off the floor. That's my biggest concern.
I totally agree, Frankie. Is it wrong for me to say that he's destined to be a backup? Because when I watched him, I just didn't see it. Yes, I do see the skill set in terms of like why he's being talked about in the draft, but I don't see it in terms of being a guy that I want to start for me for the next 5-10 years.
For Miami, definitely not. I like Lou said, like I don't think this guy would play with Bam at all. Not just to mention, Bam shooting threes out of nowhere at a high clip. Missi didn't attempt a three this year. Mm-hmm. He shot 61% from the line. Like he's still new to basketball, so he's improving. But on hooks, he only took 13 hooks this year, 30%. Like the touch isn't really there. It's still developing.
He's a dunker.
Yeah, he's like strictly a dunker. I think it was 97% of his field goal attempts were at the rim. Like he is strictly at the rim guy. And he, there is stuff to like. You can see the defensive tools. The block rate is pretty solid. You see the moves, the ball handling on catch and goes on like they technically call it a spot ups. He was in the 90th percentile at 1.23. So there's stuff to like, but I just think he's the kind of guy at 15. He's not going to play with Bam enough, and you're maxing out probably 15 minutes a game, or a Sioux Falls guy for the beginning of the year. And like at 15, there's better prospects to develop and and that'll fit a little bit easier. But I don't think he's a bad prospect in any aspect. I just think for Miami, it's just not really the fit with Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler. It's a tougher fit for me.
Yes. Who would disappoint you guys more, Kel'El Ware or Yves Missi?
Kel'El Ware.
Missi for me.
Oh, we got a showdown.
I think Ware has more tools that make more sense. But I would rather have Ware than Missi, just off skill, not all character and everything.
Oh no, I mean off of fit in terms of next to Bam, Ware can kind of shoot even if it's low volume, but just realistically, I do not want Kel'El Ware on this team whatsoever. So give me the guy who's a high motor, high energy guy. Like I think defensively, him and Bam day one can work, and like you have like a top 5 defense just off the premise of those two guys alone because they can cover a lot of ground. But offensively, we were 21st last year. Yikes with them two on the floor. Like it's. But Pat Riley will get his wish.
Yeah, it's a toss-up for me in terms of which one would disappoint me more. I see the skill set with where it's like enticing and tantalizing, but because of the Hassan experience, I just can't go for guys with no motor. So I would slightly lean towards Missi there. But again, I don't want either of them. So let's move on to another guy I don't want, but is Christian Hernandez's favorite player in the fucking draft. Let's talk about Zach Edey, the Purdue center. Senior, and wasn't he like Mr. Basketball? I mean, listen, the guy's good. Frankie, why is Christian so excited about Zach Edey? And I'll tell you exactly why he shouldn't be for Miami.
Because he's humongous. That's why.
Yeah, he's ginormous. He's a large man. Yeah.
Yeah. G cut off his height. He's 7'3" and 7 and 3/4.
I thought so. I was like, just 7 feet. I thought he was taller than that.
Yeah. G abbreviated that and missed that one. But
spelling, of course.
But you can absolutely see the skill set with Edey. He's a guy who worked really hard. Like everything about his work ethic is high marks and and reported very well. You can see one of the most dominant players in college basketball that we've seen in like decades. Like
he was, especially this year. He had a hell of a run this year.
He led his team to the national championship game. Had high level games. Had a 40-point game in the Elite Eight on good efficiency. Like there's a lot to like about him. Sets good screens, gets positioning, has good touch with both hands. And his hook shot is nasty. Like he's automatic inside. But the problem
You're
is
being really nice starting off with this stuff. Let's because if this was the draft in 1994, he'd be the number 1 pick. But it's 2024, so let's talk about why he's going to go probably in the 20s.
Absolutely, but it's there's stuff to like. You can see why he could be a good pro, and the stuff about his work ethic leads me to believe he can get better at any of his weaknesses. It's just Miami was the 9th worst offense in the league. This guy does not help their spacing. He, like I said, with Missi, like he's not going to play with Bam. We saw the same thing happen with Precious, who was granted much worse on offense than all of these guys, arguably than like Missi maybe.
Actually, Missi, Precious, good comp. Yeah,
exactly. Offensively, that's it.
Yeah.
But Edey, like the same thing. He's just not the kind of big that Spo will play a lot. I was surprised they worked him out. But he like
just to get a view up close to solidify their opinion. Like
you gotta see the tools.
Yeah, he took one. Also, he took 1-3 this year. Yeah. Like he didn't have to in college because he's that damn big and lumbering. But I just don't think a guy that has development issue needs to develop and needs playing time. 15 minutes a game in Miami to start the season is not going to get it done.
No, I agree. For me, more than anything, it's the lateral quickness and the way that we play defense and the switching and all that I just don't see him being a fit for our system. There's nothing wrong with his skill set, but again, it's 2024, not 1994. Lu, how do you feel about Zach Edey, and where is he on your big board?
Another late first round guy. Like I think he's right above Kel'El Ware for me. I like him more than Ware for Miami, but that says more
like him
about
more than Ware overall.
Yeah, that just says more about me and Ware than me and Zach. But to Franky's point, like he's just a fucking physical freak, and it's crazy that he's this big. People are gonna say, he moved better than Klingon, and he moved better than Alex Sarr at the combine, and he tested better. The tape says none of that shit is true. Like I'm gonna just keep it a buck. Like he is big, but I hate using this word. He is soft around the basket defensively, and that irks me. He should be dominating the paint, but I saw guards taking it up into his chest at will, and just him not being able to, or like not being able to process what was going on. A lot of people like to say that, just throw him out there, he'll figure it out. For FIBA, Canada didn't play him last year. Like he didn't play for Canada at all. So and they were playing zone when he was on the floor. Like,
and that's extremely telling, Lu.
What do you think's going to happen in the NBA? Like, if we were shitty, like if we were really, really bad, like if we were the Washington Wizards, no offense, I would take a flyer on this guy if he was there at 15, just because like, you know what, fuck it. Like we're bad anyways, but like Miami is not going to be like, they're not looking to be absolute garbage. So they're going to look at this guy to, try to see what they have. Like they don't have time for that. So in my opinion, I think he's out. I think there's some things that he does well. I think the whole hook shot thing is crazy because he shot 45% on hook shots, and he took them more than anybody else in the country. Like that to me isn't impressive. You shot 45% on hook shots against college level athletes. Imagine in the NBA.
Lu, to your point about how he was letting the guards go right past him, like it's one thing if you're doing that as a freshman, because as a freshman, you still haven't figured out all of the tricks of the defense and all that, but he's a 4-year senior starter. That's kind of some stuff that he should have figured out, especially going into the league now. That's not something that I think Miami is going to be okay kind of waiting around for him to figure it out.
Yeah, it's tough because offensively, there's some things that I think he's a phenomenal screen setter. Not just his height, like he understands angles. He does that very well. So that's cool. Like, I guess if you're trying to talk yourself into why he would be the pick, I don't know why you would, but like screen setting is a real thing. when he comes downhill, it takes him a second to get from the screen to the paint. But when he gets there, he's a really good finisher in that regard because he draws a lot of contact and he finishes through it. Other than that, like, I don't know how his game translates unless like you want to have the best screen setting guy. Like, I don't know.
No, but ESPN is going to be eating it up. Whoever drafts him, it's going to be a big story. And when he gets like 8 minutes in a backup role, they're going to be like, why isn't he playing? Frankie, is there anything you want to say about Zach Edey before we move on to the next guy, who's someone that I know you do want to talk about?
I just think Edey is going to be a Nick. I just feel it in my bones.
Really?
Yeah, I feel it in my bones. They have back-to-back picks in the first round in the 20s. I just feel really strongly that's going to happen. I don't know why.
God. I hope not. Just because, well, he's whatever.
The Bam's gonna eat that. Bam's gonna eat that drop alive. Go ahead.
The God's gonna love him.
I just know ESPN with him being a Nick, it's gonna be so annoying. Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the next guy. I don't think we have any video on him. We weren't really gonna. Oh, we were awesome. Because we weren't gonna talk about him until the last minute. Frankie, let's talk about Kyle Filipowski because you were mentioning that he was actually worked out by us, and I did not know that.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He didn't work out with us as far as we've seen on the Hoops Hype list. Nothing's reported, but 5 Reasons did mention that they liked him. So we don't know. They've also mentioned that some guys have been told to not mention they've worked out with Miami. So it's possible he's one of them.
It's always safe to go with a Duke guy, obviously.
Exactly. He is more of a 4 than a 5. Obviously, a lot of people are going to compare him to Kelly, but for some reason, I don't know why. But Kyle Filipowski is played the 4 and the 5 for Duke. Talented. He's can shoot the ball. Good passer. I just don't think defensively he held up very well. His size, he shot the ball well, hook shots 8-15, 53%. Good on layups, catch and shoot threes, 36%. Pull up threes, 16 shots, 16 of them, 37.5%. There's talent there. There's a lot of guys I like a lot more than him. But I think he's a talented guy that in the right system, in a system like Miami, I can see why they would be interested in getting a further look. There was just too many games where I saw him. He was getting pushed around a little bit, disappeared in moments against better competition. Like I want to see guys like, and that goes back to the Kel'El Ware. I forgot to mention this, but when I was watching Kel'El Ware in the biggest games against Zach Edey, Donovan Clingan, the guy shot like under 40%. Like he disappeared and his team got killed every time. And like you want to see them at least, be formidable against NBA competition or projected NBA competition. But I get with this guy, there's some, you can see some drives in his game, some post ups. There's some skill set there and things to like. But he's just more in the bottom of the first for me for as far as options for Miami.
It would be the most boring fucking pick. I hope it never happens. Watch it be the guy because this fucking happens every year. Lou, tell me why Kyle Filipowski should be considered at 15, even though I'll kill you.
For Miami, out of all the bigs we've talked about today, I think he's probably the second one on my list.
Ugh.
I'm just saying, like fit wise,
this is the rare jumper, white I'm not into.
Yeah, I don't know.
I get that.
Again, it's the only one I've liked who like I will considerably like if he's there like okay like I will be more than 100% okay with the pick is Tyler Smith, but I'd be like to be fair like Jaime like last year I was like okay that's whatever that's what Filipowski would be to me. It would just be whatever.
More fun to watch though. This guy's just boring.
No, yeah, he's definitely not a highlights guy. But he does a lot of things well. Super high IQ, high field player. The basic things.
You heard it here first. He'll be the pick at 15 for the Miami Heat.
He's a more cleaner option than the other guys that some of the other guys we've talked about.
He also, one of the things that intrigues me with him is I don't think his jumper is there all the way, which is crazy. I think he's a better spacer than Ware is, just because he shot it on more volume. But there were some misses on tape that I was like, oh my. You're open and that's what you're putting up. That's very questionable. Right. But at the same time, there's sometimes on tape. I don't think he's a 5 either. I agree with Frankie. I think if he's a 5, like you're playing him against like space 5s or like, smaller fives who are not as
I
athletic.
totally agree. Yeah.
But defensively, there were moments where he moved his feet on the perimeter, and I was like, oh, there is something here.
Yeah.
Granted, can he do that for, I don't know how many minutes he's going to play a game? Maybe not. But I do think he's a plus defender, or like an average to plus defender. I don't think he's good or great, but I think he can survive on that end. And offensively, his fucking vision is very good. Like Duke ran their offense through him, and they had Jerry McCain and Proctor. Like
he was setting up McCain for a lot of wide open looks. He was
very good passer. So like even though like, I wouldn't like the pick, I'd be okay with it, I guess. Like it's a whatever pick for me. But he's better than Edey to me. He's better than Ware to me. I think Missi is better, but he's a better fit than Missi. So it is what it is. Nobody I'm in love with. Other than Tyler.
I know my job is to sell the audience on all these guys, but it's just like the only big that we've talked about today that really, gets me excited about what he could be is Tyler Smith. The rest of the guys, yes, I see the skill set. I see why they're being talked about, but for me, it's just not a right fit for Miami.
And just one more thing, out of all these bigs, he had the second fastest shuttle run. So, and the third fastest sprint. Yeah. Like surprised me too. He
can move.
He moves better, sneaky better. He had a better lane agility than Missi.
Slowly the whites cry.
Slightly better.
Laterally, he moves very, very well.
Yeah,
he does.
He's not.
He has to.
He's not like a great athlete. He's a functional one though.
Yes.
And
exactly.
And
a real gym rat, real scrappy, does all the right things.
Miami, this is a pick at 15, guys. This is what it sounds like.
Honestly, this is what I'm getting out of this entire episode is that Kyle Filipowski is going to be the Miami Heat pick at number 15.
If they took him over De Silva, I would throw up.
I would puke in my mouth.
My God, let's not even get into that. Well, we'll see what happens in our very special mock draft bonanza next week, the Tuesday before the live draft show on Wednesday. I don't know why I'm doing that now. We're not closing the show.
I was going to say, we got one more guy.
Let's get to our next guy. Yes, let's get to our last guy, who's actually going to be a second round option. And Lu, you wanted to talk about him a lot more than I did. Let's talk about Adem Bona of UCLA. I can already see the t-shirts, by the way. Like I'm in it just for the t-shirts. I got a Bona that's going to sell so quickly on Court Culture.
Adem Bona.
Yeah, it's Adem. Goddamn G.
No, but he's
I just saw that.
He's a small ball 5, very similar build, literally to like Bam. I think he's half an inch shorter than Bam, but like has a 2-inch longer wingspan. They have the same standing reach within a pound of each other. Like it is crazy how identical they are physically. And I think defensively, he is not the most polished, but goddamn, can he fucking move, man? And he is a high energy guy. Like, look at these plays. Look at him hawking down, chase down blocks, moving on the perimeter. And then also in this film, you're going to see him posting up a whole lot more than he fucking should have. And it's, he wasn't even bad on post-ups. It's just generally like, that's not the role that I would see for him. Again, this is a guy for 43, not 15.
Yes,
I would be
very
ecstatic
important.
For 43. I would be ecstatic. I think he's a late first, early second round guy. So if he's there at 43, I would be through the roof for him. Because he posted up on 46% of the plays. He has, if there's things that he lacks, is handle, it's IQ, it's footwork. Offensively.
Those are pretty important.
Pretty important. What does he make up for it? His screening is ridiculous. He's an incredible athlete. He's a fucking great defender. Tied foul prone, like he picks up dumb fouls, but like the tools are there to be what you want him to be. And a lot of his points and just his stats in general were self-created. Like he really didn't have point guard. Yeah.
The high motor, high athleticism. I mean, especially at 43, that's a great value pick, especially if you're going guard first.
Yeah. He's a guy who's only been playing basketball for like 5 years.
Tristan De Silva getting shut down by Bona.
No, yeah. But one of the things that also like I took away from, at least personally when I was watching him.
That's what Jaime right there.
He shot. Yeah. He played with Jaime, which is the UCLA connection is strong. But you look how much better he looks on the road than when he posts up. He looks funky. But
no, it's wild. Love the athleticism. Love that he wore number 3 too. Bonus points for that.
Yeah. And just a very good mover. But one of my favorite things that he does is he's also like an incredibly strong player. So he he's like smaller than people, but he's big at the same time. I'm a big fan of Adem, and the jumper doesn't look as bad as it should have. Like he shot 70% from the free throw line, better than Bam did in college. Shot 47% on catch and shoot twos, better than Bam did in college. I'm not saying he's going to be Bam, but I'm saying the traits are there for a similar kind of player. So,
yeah, I'm coming around on him a lot. Actually, I didn't know much about him until they mentioned the workout. Frankie, how do you feel about him being potentially the pick at 43 and giving Bam some much needed rest?
The guy playing 15 minutes is a lot more feasible of a pick at the 43rd selection. There's still guys that I like more. This is a pretty deep draft. Like I know there's not a lot of high end talent, but there's a lot of functional talent in this draft. And this guy, good work ethic from all reports. You can see his different coverages, hedging, showing, recovering. He could switch a little bit. And Lu talked about his post ups. He didn't do that bad.
He didn't.
It wasn't great aesthetically, but he was in the 73rd percentile, 1.0% points per possession. He was actually better than on the pick and roll. The pick and roll is only 0.85, so that's something he's got to polish up. His putbacks and his cuts, he was pretty low, 49th percentile in putbacks and 26th in cuts. So he needs to polish it up. But like Lu said, there's stuff there to like. 12% assist rate, 8.7% block rate. Had a lot of dunks. Like overall was one of the more well-rounded athletes out of these guys we've talked about. Had the highest max vert, standing vert, second and 3/4 sprint, third in lane agility. Like there's a great athlete here. And I can see if you get a guard or a wing and with the first pick, like getting a backup center at 43 isn't bad. And I think this guy has potential to develop a little bit more overall offensively. I think he's still going to be more of a pick and roll usage, at least at first. But it's a lot more feasible to, go for that as your upside on offense when it's the 43rd pick as opposed to the 15th.
I totally agree. And again, you guys are definitely talking me into him, especially even more so if we go guard with that pick. And again, I will talk more about that next week because right now that's really where I'm leaning. I think that's all we got for today. We're getting close to our cutoff time. We want to end early so everyone has enough time to get ready for the Panther game. Rawr. Let's make sure we close that out today at the Amaranth Bank. But before we go, I do want to mention our Pride Drive donation that we have going on. Frankie, if you don't mind hitting the little button so it appears at the bottom.
Yeah, I got you.
We are doing it with Trans Social again. And all you got to do is donate to be entered to win some really cool prizes. G is working on all of that as we speak. And again, I will read it out for the pod audience. Miami Heat Beat is proud to partner with Trans Social for our 3rd annual Pride celebration. Click that link below, which is not going to help you if you're listening on the pod, and enter for a chance to win our raffle packages. So please do that. Support. Also, make sure you buy the new t-shirts. I'm wearing an old one, so I got to get the new one to do it up. Carla Tiana, is Bam switching to clutch or what? What? I did not see that. Way to fucking throw me off the game right before we head out. That'll be on next week's episode when we talk about the mock draft of Bonanza, which is you just got boned. Yeah, now I'm catching up with the chat. You guys were funny today. You just got boned, ride or die, all that stuff. Oh, that's really funny. Bad Boys Pride or Die. That's good. Sorry, guys. I did not see the chat at all today. I was on the private chat the entire time. Okay, gonna wrap it up. Let's go, Cats. Make sure you donate with the Pride Drive, and make sure you tune in next week, Tuesday, 7 p.m. for our mock draft of Bonanza, which, again, will lead us up to the following day, Wednesday's live draft show, when we see who Miami is finally going to take at 15. Boys, thank you so much for your work today. Normally, I would let you all have a word before we get out, but I got to go to Sports Grill and secure a good table for the game.
Good luck.
It feels like the draft. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. DraftBeat, 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 DraftBeat. Draft, draft, draft. Draft.